Hello everyone, this is Kevin from the Austin Public Library welcoming you to Discover Your World Superlative Structures. We're going to be covering some of the most enormous engineering projects humans have ever done in this series, and we're going to start by talking about the biggest buildings. Places people live, work, and worship, and we're going to cover towers here too. Now, the order of the series is we're going to start with the oldest and move up to the most modern, which means we're mostly going to be going from the smallest to the largest. But since this is Superlative Structures, our first one is not small at all. No. Our first structure is the Great Pyramid of Egypt. At 481 feet tall, it dominated over everything in the ancient world. This was built over 4,000 years ago in Giza, Egypt, and as you probably know, it was a burial chamber for a pharaoh. What makes this so impressive isn't just its height, it's what it's made of. It's made of these giant blocks. Some of them might have weighed as much as 80 tons, and most of them probably at least 30 tons. These were huge. And how did they even move them all? Well, they didn't have cranes to lift them. They didn't have jackhammers to cut them. They didn't have surveyor's tools to plan it, and they didn't have trucks to move them. But it's even more impressive than that, because not only did they not have these modern tools, they didn't have many of the ancient tools we think of. They didn't have pulleys yet to lift them. They didn't have our knowledge of geometry to help plan the project. They didn't even use the wheel. The Great Pyramid is truly an example of human ingenuity at its finest. It took over 4,000 years, but people were eventually able to build something bigger than the Pyramid of Giza. The Lincoln Cathedral went up in 1311 in Lincoln, England, and at 482 feet tall, it was only 1 foot taller than the Pyramid of Giza, but hey, that 1 foot counts. As the name implies, this was a church, and for a long time, churches in England remained the tallest buildings in the world. For about 500 years, this was the case. They actually added a spire to this church, which brought the total height up to 524 feet. But that spire collapsed, and that was sort of a theme that went on at this period of time. See, after the spire collapsed, St. Mary's, which is a church in Germany, became the tallest at 495 feet. St. Pierre's in France beat that at 502 feet. But St. Pierre's Tower collapsed, which made St. Mary's again the tallest building in the world. But St. Mary's Bell Tower burned down, which made the Great Pyramid once again the tallest building in the world, 481 feet. But this is the last time that would happen. St. Nicholas's in Germany was able to beat that by 1 foot again. Then the Rouen Cathedral in France added 13 more feet. And finally, the Cologne Cathedral in Germany at 516 feet was the tallest building in the world until the end of the 19th century. After 500 years of European churches dominating the chart of the world's tallest structures, the Washington Monument went up in 1884 and surpassed them all. The Washington Monument is in Washington, D.C., along the National Mall, where you find lots of other D.C. landmarks like the Smithsonian Museum, the Lincoln Memorial, and others. This is a memorial, of course, for George Washington, first President of the United States and General of the American Revolution. At 555 feet tall, it's very big, but it's hard to imagine what that means. Now, if we do a little bit of math, we know George Washington was 6'2", which means the Washington Monument is 90 George Washingtons tall. So this should give you a little idea of how big that is. It's massive. The Eiffel Tower took over the title only a few years later in 1889. The Eiffel Tower was built for the World's Fair in 1889. Its main function was to be a radio tower, and it came in at a whopping 1,024 feet tall. That's almost twice the height of the Washington Monument. At the time, a lot of critics didn't think it was a very attractive monument. They didn't think it really fit Paris with its audacious size and industrial look. But 130 years later, Paris is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world, and the Eiffel Tower is one of the most visited tourist spots in the world, so maybe they were wrong. Back to the United States, the Chrysler Building surpassed the Eiffel Tower in 1930. The Chrysler Building is a skyscraper that was the headquarters of the Chrysler Car Corporation. It came in at 1,046 feet tall. The art style of the Chrysler Building is Art Deco. It's one of the most attractive buildings around. You can see some of the awesome details. On top of the building, you can see those hubcap-like structures and those beautiful eagles along the corners. The Chrysler Building only reigned as the world's tallest structure for a single year, as in 1931 the Empire State Building was completed at a height of 1,250 feet. It reigned as the world's tallest building for many years. The Empire State Building is an iconic symbol of New York, probably made most famous by the movie King Kong, in which the giant ape climbs the building to the top, swatting away planes and helicopters. In 1945, the Empire State Building was hit by an airplane, but the building survived. It's a mixed-use office building, and a lot of companies have offices there. Some you may have even heard of, like the Boy Scouts of America and LinkedIn. The Empire State Building's reign as world's tallest building came to an end when not one but two were able to surpass it. The World Trade Center Twin Towers went up in 1970. Each of these mixed-use office buildings came to an astounding height of 1,368 feet. As you probably know, this New York City landmark has a tragic history. In 1993, terrorists attempted to destroy the North Tower with a truck bomb in the basement. This wasn't successful, but 6 people were killed. In 2001, terrorists hijacked 2 planes and crashed them into the towers, which was successful at destroying them. About 3,000 people were killed in the attack, and countless more were made sick during the relief and rescue efforts. The site where the towers stood is called Ground Zero, and there is a memorial to all the people who died. There's also a museum about the events. Freedom Tower was built near the site of the old World Trade Center Twin Towers. This comes to a height of 1,776 feet, or 1776, which is a significant number, as that is the year of the writing of the Declaration of Independence. New York's stranglehold and the title of world's tallest building came to an end in 1973 when Willis Tower, also called Sears Tower, went up in Chicago. This is another mixed-use office building and came in at a height of 1,450 feet. Getting away from skyscrapers for just a second, the CN Tower is the tallest structure in the Western Hemisphere to this day and reigned as the world's tallest structure for a very long time. Built in 1976, you can visit this tower in Toronto, Canada. Besides its observation deck, it also has a big commercial section. There's restaurants and such in it. At 1,815 feet tall, it dominates the Toronto skyline. Some other very large towers include the Ostankino Tower in Moscow. This tower comes in at 1,772 feet. The Canton Tower in Guangzhou, China is 1,982 feet and is the tallest structure in China. The tallest tower in the world currently is the Tokyo Skytree. It went up in Tokyo, Japan in 2012 and is 2,080 feet tall. In 1998, the Petronas Tower surpassed the Willis Tower in Chicago to become the world's tallest building. The Petronas Tower is in Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. At a height of 1,483 feet, they are still the tallest twin towers in the world. One of the most unique architectural features of these towers is the sky bridge that connects the two. One tower is the headquarters of the Petronas Oil Company, and the other is a mixed-use office building. A lot of companies you probably have heard of have offices there, like Bloomberg, Microsoft, and IBM. 6 years later, Petronas Towers was surpassed by Taipei 101. In 2004, this building was complete in Taipei, the capital of Taiwan. This is another mixed-use building, commercial and office. There's a shopping mall there. It comes in at a height of 1,671 feet. It's got a unique architecture style. It's meant to look like a pagoda. You can see those different layers as the tower goes up. But what Taipei 101 is most famous for is its insane fireworks display every year. Last and most definitely not least is Burj Khalifa. Burj Khalifa is by far the tallest building in the world at a height of 2,722 feet. It's more than half a mile straight up. Burj Khalifa was finished in 2009 in Dubai, a rich city in the United Arab Emirates. Burj Khalifa is a hotel, it's an apartment building, and it's an office building all in one. Burj Khalifa has a very interesting design. It starts out very wide, and as you go up, it gets smaller and smaller. This leaves space for these beautiful balconies and terraces to look down upon the city from. You might be wondering about these really big buildings. They have to cost a ton to build, and that's definitely the case with Burj Khalifa. They actually ran out of money while they were building it. But do they make money? What's the point? Well, in Burj Khalifa's case, no, it doesn't really make money. It's never made a profit. But what these buildings do is they bring attention. They're incredible landmarks. They bring tourists. So the area around Burj Khalifa has become a very exciting, revitalized downtown area that's very profitable. So these buildings do have a purpose, and besides, they're a huge source of pride for the countries that build them. Most of the world's tallest buildings can be found in Asia. Besides Burj Khalifa, Petronas Towers, and Taipei 101, there's also a Shanghai Financial Center in Shanghai, China, at 1,614 feet. A Burj Al Bait, a hotel in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, at 1,621 feet. And Shanghai Tower in Shanghai, China, at 2,073 feet, which would easily have been the world's tallest building if not for Burj Khalifa. Well, there you have it. We've looked at the biggest buildings in the world. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. This has been Kevin from the Austin Public Library, reminding you to always be discovering your world.